Sexual energy, often misunderstood as a simple or base instinct, is far more complex than commonly perceived. In its raw form, it is linked to our biological drives, an innate urge toward procreation and pleasure. Yet, this primal force, which is often relegated to the realm of desire and lust, carries a far deeper, psychological significance. To understand the transformative potential of sexual energy, we must first acknowledge the dual nature it embodies. It once carnal and sacred, destructive and creative, fleeting and eternal. At the surface level, sexual energy is tied to the physical body's natural instincts. It's the force that drives us to seek connection, intimacy, and reproduction. For many, this is the extent of their understanding of sexuality, an impulse to be satisfied, a drive that leads to fleeting gratification. In this view, sexual energy is often reduced to a simple tool for personal pleasure, a temporary release that leaves no lasting impact other than momentary satisfaction. Society often reinforces this understanding, as popular culture frequently depicts sex as a commodity, a means of entertainment or escape. However, this reductionist view is only the first layer of a much deeper psychological reality. Sexual energy, when examined through the lens of the psyche, is not just an instinct but a powerful force that shapes our lives and influences our creative potential. The connection between sexuality and the unconscious mind reveals the deeper currents of desire that influence our motivations, actions, and aspirations. When we begin to see sexual energy not only as an instinct but also as a key to unlocking the unconscious, we begin to recognize its role as a source of personal and creative power. Sexual energy is fundamentally linked to Eros, the ancient and universal principle of life and creativity. Eros is not limited to physical attraction or romantic love. It encompasses the drive for creation itself. It is the force that compels us to bring new ideas into being, whether through art, invention, or self-expression. In this sense, sexual energy becomes the very source of our drive to innovate, to grow, to transcend our current limitations. It is not a force to be denied or feared, but one to be embraced and understood. This deeper understanding of sexual energy also brings us to the realization of its duality. On one hand, it is the energy of lust, of the physical desire to connect with another, to experience pleasure and intimacy. This aspect of sexual energy is often seen as chaotic and uncontrollable, capable of leading us astray or creating destructive patterns. It is easy to see how this raw energy can lead to indulgence, obsession, and even self-destruction. Historically, cultures and religions have sought to suppress this aspect of human nature, associating it with sin, shame, or moral corruption. However, the repression of sexual energy doesn't eliminate its power. It only pushes it into the unconscious, where it can manifest in unhealthy or unproductive ways. On the other hand, when sexual energy is consciously understood and integrated into our lives, it can become a force of creation and transformation. The very same energy that fuels lust can also fuel the creation of art, the pursuit of mastery, and the manifestation of personal greatness. The key lies not in rejecting or denying this energy, but in redirecting it, transmuting it into a higher form. This process of transmutation is what allows sexual energy to transcend its base nature and become a powerful catalyst for personal growth and achievement. The creative potential of sexual energy is most apparent when we consider its role in the psyche. Psychologically, the energy associated with sexual desire is linked to our vitality, our life force, and our capacity for connection. When we channel this energy effectively, it can lead to profound transformation, not only in our personal lives, but also in the collective consciousness. Great artists, thinkers, and leaders throughout history have recognized the potential of sexual energy as a driving force in their work. Their achievements are not simply the result of external circumstances, but also the result of an inner alchemy, a conscious transformation of base impulses into higher forms of creative expression. Thus, sexual energy is not just a biological or emotional phenomenon. It is a symbolic force that transcends the individual. It connects us to a larger, universal current of life that flows through all of us, linking us to our deepest desires and aspirations. In embracing this energy in its entirety, not just its physical manifestations, but its deeper psychological currents, we begin to unlock the potential for greatness. Sexual energy, when fully understood and harnessed, is a force of creation that has the capacity to shape not only our individual lives, but the very fabric of culture and society. In the end, the duality of sexual energy lies in its capacity to be both destructive and creative, primal and transcendent. By acknowledging and embracing this complexity, we can begin the journey of transforming base desires into lasting legacies. The concept of transmuting sexual energy, redirecting its raw, primal force into higher pursuits, is one of the most powerful yet often misunderstood aspects of human potential. Sexual energy, when left unchecked or misunderstood, can be a source of distraction, indulgence, or even destruction. However, when consciously redirected, this very same energy can serve as a transformative catalyst, propelling individuals toward greatness in both their personal and creative endeavors. The process of energy transmutation allows one to convert what may seem like a fleeting and base impulse into an enduring and life-affirming source of power. At its core, transmutation involves the transformation of one form of energy into another. In the case of sexual energy, it requires a shift from its raw physical manifestation to a more abstract, spiritual, or creative expression. This process is not merely about suppression or denial of sexual desires. Rather, it is about channeling the energy that arises from them into actions, ideas, and projects that hold lasting value. Sexual energy is a potent force, and like all energy, it can be directed and transformed. The key lies in the awareness of its potential and the conscious decision to redirect it toward a constructive goal. Sexual energy is inextricably linked to the creative impulse. When we experience desire, we are not merely seeking physical gratification, but we are also reaching for something deeper, a connection, a sense of purpose, or a longing to create something new. The life force inherent in sexual energy is a universal driving force. It is the same energy that fuels the desire to innovate, to manifest ideas, and to bring new life into the world, whether in the form of art, entrepreneurship, or personal achievement. In this way, sexual energy is intrinsically linked to the creative process, which requires a strong, vital, and focused energy. The process of transmutation can take many forms. For some, it may involve redirecting sexual energy into creative projects. Writers, artists, musicians, and performers throughout history have often spoken of channeling sexual energy into their work. For these individuals, the act of creation becomes a form of sublimation, a way of turning the urge for physical intimacy into something of a higher, more enduring nature. This transmutation can produce works of beauty, innovation, and impact that outlast the fleeting nature of the physical desire that sparked it. In others, energy transmutation may manifest as a drive for personal excellence. Sexual energy is not merely a means of reproduction or pleasure. It is a vital force that pushes us towards self-realization. Instead of allowing this energy to dissipate in momentary indulgence, it can be used as fuel for discipline, focus, and self-mastery. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders often speak of harnessing their sexual energy to maintain a level of drive and passion that sustains them in the pursuit of their goals. The fire that burns in one's sexual desire can be harnessed to fuel the fire of determination, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The importance of sexual discipline in this process cannot be overstated. When we learn to manage and channel our sexual energy, rather than succumb to the immediate gratification of our desires, we create space for deeper growth and self-empowerment. Practicing sexual discipline is not about suppression or abstinence. It is about redirecting that energy into more productive channels. In doing so, we develop not only a greater sense of control over our impulses, but also a heightened sense of purpose and meaning. This process of redirection brings us into alignment with our deepest aspirations as we move from momentary pleasure to lasting fulfillment. Energy transmutation also involves the integration of mind, body, and spirit. The body's physical desires are often in conflict with the higher goals of the mind and spirit. However, when we consciously harmonize these aspects of ourselves, we can elevate our sexual energy into a more refined, transcendent force. This integration allows for a holistic approach to personal growth, where every aspect of the self, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, and spiritual, works in concert toward the creation of something greater than the self. Transmuted sexual energy in this sense becomes a sacred force that touches every aspect of our lives, from our relationships to our work, to our personal development. One of the most powerful aspects of transmutation is its ability to transform limiting beliefs and patterns into opportunities for expansion. Sexual energy, when left untapped or untransformed, can sometimes be bound by unconscious fears or societal taboos. These fears can cause sexual energy to manifest in unhealthy ways, such as in addiction, obsession, or codependency. However, when sexual energy is brought into consciousness and redirected, it has the capacity to heal these wounds and break free from self-imposed limitations. Through this process, individuals can not only change the way they experience their own desires, but can also transcend the conditioned societal narratives that have kept them from fully embracing their creative and personal potential. By learning to harness and transmute sexual energy, individuals can tap into a wellspring of untapped power. The energy that once seemed like a fleeting, transient desire can become a source of lasting strength, creativity, and purpose, enabling individuals to shape their world, their legacy, and their future. Through conscious transmutation, sexual energy becomes a tool for transformation, a bridge from the fleeting to the eternal, from the ordinary to the extraordinary. In exploring the deeper nature of sexual energy and its potential for greatness, we must confront one of the most crucial aspects of human psychology, the shadow. The shadow represents the unconscious parts of ourselves, those aspects we either repress or deny, often because they conflict with societal norms or personal ideals. Among the many aspects of the shadow, lust, desire, and sexuality are often the most hidden, the most shamed, and the most misunderstood. But it is precisely through the integration of these shadow aspects that sexual energy can be transmuted into a creative force capable of greatness. Sexual desire, in its most basic form, is often seen as primitive, uncontrollable, and morally ambiguous. Our society tends to separate sexual energy from higher pursuits, relegating it to something that is inherently base or selfish. Many cultures and religions have constructed elaborate systems of repression, attempting to impose guilt, shame, or fear upon natural sexual instincts. This societal conditioning forces us to bury our desires in the unconscious, where they continue to influence our actions in hidden, often destructive ways. What is repressed in one area of life will inevitably manifest in another, and sexual energy, when denied, can lead to internal conflicts, unhealthy relationships, or a lack of personal fulfillment. To begin the process of integration, we must first recognize that these are shameful or taboo aspects of ourselves are not inherently bad. Lust, desire, and sexuality are natural components of human existence. They represent our deepest yearnings, our primal need for connection, pleasure, and creation. The challenge lies not in suppressing these impulses, but in understanding them, embracing them, and learning to harness them for constructive purposes. Integration of the shadow involves bringing these hidden parts of the self into the light of consciousness, acknowledging them, and recognizing the role they play in shaping our behavior, desires, and life choices. The act of embracing the shadow does not mean giving free rein to destructive or impulsive behavior. Instead, it means accepting the existence of these urges without judgment, seeing them for what they are. Potent energies that, if redirected, can become the foundation for creative and transformative endeavors. When we repress sexual energy, we not only cut ourselves off from its potential, but we also risk distorting its natural flow. Instead of engaging with it consciously, we create an internal split between the parts of ourselves that we deem acceptable and those we deem unacceptable. This split, often unconscious, creates a tension within the psyche, leaving us fragmented and out of balance. The process of integrating sexual energy with the rest of the self involves acknowledging the fullness of our human nature, both light and dark, pure and impure. Carl Jung suggested that true psychological wholeness is achieved when we recognize and accept the totality of our being, including the parts that are uncomfortable or difficult to face. The same holds true for sexual energy. Now, it is not enough to simply repress our desires in the name of morality or discipline. We must integrate them into our lives as a vital source of power and inspiration. One of the most transformative aspects of integrating the shadow is that it allows us to experience freedom from shame, guilt, and the subconscious patterns that often limit our potential. As we confront our desires and impulses directly, we stop allowing them to control us from the unconscious. Instead of being driven by repressed sexual urges or acting out in ways that don't align with our deeper values, we gain the freedom to choose how we wish to express our sexuality and energy. This newfound freedom is the basis of self-mastery, the ability to direct one's energy in ways that align with a larger purpose and vision. Moreover, the integration of sexual energy into our conscious lives brings wholeness to our creativity. Sexual energy is, at its essence, a creative force, the very energy that gives birth to new life, new ideas, and new possibilities. When this energy is integrated into our conscious awareness, it becomes a driving force for creation, innovation, and personal expression. Artists, entrepreneurs, writers, and thinkers who have embraced their shadow, particularly their sexual energy, often find that it becomes a wellspring of inspiration, fueling their work in profound ways. This integration allows them to access a deeper level of authenticity and originality in their endeavors, unburdened by societal taboos or self-imposed limitations. In contrast, failure to integrate the shadow can result in a distorted relationship with sexual energy. Repressed lust may emerge in unhealthy ways, leading to addiction, obsession, or destructive behaviors. These unintegrated aspects of the self often manifest in the form of unhealthy relationships, secret lives, or psychological fragmentation. When sexual energy is not consciously integrated, it can drive individuals toward compulsive behavior, creating cycles of shame, guilt, and self-sabotage. For example, an individual who represses their sexual desires might experience a buildup of frustration or tension that ultimately manifests as anxiety, depression, or a lack of fulfillment in other areas of life. The repression of the shadow, in essence, creates internal conflict, which weakens one's ability to harness the full power of sexual energy. When integrated, sexual energy becomes a tool for personal growth, wisdom, and self-empowerment. The conscious integration of lust and desire allows an individual to access their full creative potential and channel their energy into pursuits that leave a lasting impact. It also fosters greater self-acceptance, as one comes to understand that these primal instincts are not shameful or sinful, but essential elements of human nature that, when embraced, can lead to a more authentic and empowered life. Ultimately, the integration of the shadow, the acceptance and conscious use of our sexual energy, forms the foundation for achieving greatness. By no longer fearing or suppressing our desires, but understanding them and directing them purposefully, we can transform base impulses into a powerful force for creativity, achievement, and legacy. Eros, the ancient Greek god of love and desire, embodies more than just romantic attraction or physical pleasure. He represents a creative force, a deep primal energy that permeates the fabric of life itself. Eros is the embodiment of vitality, passion, and the drive to create. When we speak of sexual energy in the context of greatness, we are speaking of this profound creative energy that exists within each of us. Eros is not merely about the act of physical love, it is about creation in all forms. The creation of art, ideas, relationships, and even personal evolution. Sexual energy, when consciously directed and embraced, has the capacity to fuel artistic, intellectual, and spiritual achievements that transcend the fleeting nature of mere desire. The creative potential of Eros lies in its connection to life itself. Sexual energy is the force that compels us to not only reproduce but also to create. Whether it is the birth of a child, the birth of an idea, or the birth of a new direction in life, Eros is the energy that propels us forward. It is a force that is inherently life-affirming. When we engage with our sexual energy consciously, we are engaging with the life force that sustains us, that drives us to connect with the world, and that urges us to bring something into being. Sexual energy is the foundation of creativity because it is not confined to physical expression alone. Creativity, in its broadest sense, is the ability to bring something new into existence, to manifest ideas, visions, and dreams into the material world. The energy that fuels this process is the very same energy that fuels sexual desire. However, when we recognize that this energy is not limited to procreation, we begin to see the vastness of its potential. Eros can give birth to ideas, inventions, artistic works, and entire ways of being. It is a universal creative principle that manifests through all forms of creation, whether through tangible, artistic expression, intellectual breakthroughs, or spiritual transformations. When sexual energy is consciously channeled, it can fuel not only personal endeavors, but also collective evolution. Great movements, revolutions, and innovations throughout history have often been the result of individuals or groups channeling their inner Eros. Artists, inventors, and leaders have recognized the power of their creative sexual energy, redirecting it from mere self-gratification into larger, more meaningful projects that have shaped the world. The same passion and intensity that drive sexual desire can be redirected toward the creation of a lasting legacy, a work or cause that impacts society and resonates beyond the individual's lifetime. The artist, for example, taps into the energy of Eros to create works that speak to the soul. Through music, painting, sculpture, or literature, they transform sexual energy into a form that transcends the self, connecting with others on a deeper, more universal level. The great works of art that endure through the centuries are not merely products of skill. They are born from the same creative drive that propels human desire. The act of creating is inextricably linked to the force of sexual energy, as both involve the bringing into being of something that did not previously exist. This connection between sexuality and creativity can be seen in the lives of many great thinkers and artists. Writers such as James Joyce, philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, and visual artists like Pablo Picasso have openly acknowledged the role of sexual energy in their creative processes. They were not merely seeking physical pleasure, but were channeling their deep desires and passions into their work, using that energy to fuel their intellectual and artistic pursuits. The sexual energy that courses through them became the source of their creativity, the raw material for their innovations. In addition to creating art, sexual energy also drives the creation of the self. Eros is the energy of personal transformation. Just as it can lead to the birth of a child, it can also lead to the birth of a new identity or a new vision of the world. When individuals embrace their sexual energy as a creative force, they are engaging in a process of self-realization. The creative process is not just external, but internal. It involves the constant reinvention of the self, the reshaping of one's character, purpose, and destiny. Sexual energy becomes the driving force behind this process of personal evolution. Furthermore, the energy of Eros is not confined to any one individual or act. It is collective in nature, capable of uniting groups of people toward a common creative endeavor. When a community or society embraces the power of Eros, it can lead to cultural renaissances, social movements, and revolutions. The energy that drives sexual connection can also drive collective transformation, creating a shared vision of what is possible. This is why movements for social change often begin with passionate individuals who are deeply connected to their inner creative force. The ability to envision and create a different future is intimately connected to the ability to harness sexual energy and direct it toward a greater cause. In the realm of entrepreneurship, sexual energy manifests as the desire to create something new, whether it is a business, a product, or a service. Entrepreneurs who channel their sexual energy into their ventures are often driven by a deep passion and a sense of purpose. This energy helps them overcome obstacles, stay focused on their goals, and remain resilient in the face of challenges. At a spiritual level, Eros represents the unity of opposites, the coming together of masculine and feminine energies, the merging of dualities into a singular whole. This spiritual dimension of Eros points to its potential for self-transcendence, where individuals can use their sexual energy not just for personal or artistic creation, but for the creation of a deeper connection to the universe. In this way, Eros is not merely a biological instinct or a source of personal gratification, but a universal creative force that, when consciously embraced, has the potential to shape not just individuals, but entire cultures, movements, and even the course of history. The concept of legacy is not just about what we leave behind in material terms, but what we imprint upon the world through the depth of our character, the quality of our actions, and the vitality of our creative endeavors. Achieving a lasting legacy is fundamentally tied to the mastery of self, and at the core of this self-mastery lies the ability to harness and channel sexual energy consciously. This energy, when guided and integrated with purpose, becomes the foundation for personal growth, resilience, and the ability to create something that endures beyond one's lifetime. Self-mastery is the art of controlling the impulses, desires, and instincts that shape our daily lives. It is the ability to rise above base tendencies and direct our energies toward higher goals, goals that reflect our deepest values and aspirations. Sexual energy, when left unmanaged or unconsciously expressed, can lead to distraction, indulgences, and destructive patterns. However, when consciously understood and deliberately channeled, it becomes a powerful engine for sustained effort, discipline, and achievement. The mastery of sexual energy is, therefore, not about repression or denial, but about transformation and conscious redirection. At its most fundamental level, mastering sexual energy involves discipline. Sexual desire in its natural state is intense and fleeting, urging individuals toward immediate gratification. However, when we practice self-discipline, we move beyond this impulsive, reactive mode of living. We gain the ability to postpone gratification in favor of long-term goals, to direct our passions and desires into more meaningful pursuits. This disciplined approach enables us to focus on what truly matters, to channel our energies into the areas of life that lead to enduring success, whether in creative projects, relationships, or personal development. Self-mastery also involves the integration of willpower and desire. The greatest individuals throughout history, artists, leaders, philosophers, and entrepreneurs, have been those who learned to wield their personal desires in alignment with their larger goals. They did not suppress their desires, but rather they used them as fuel to drive their vision. This requires an understanding that sexual energy is not separate from the other energies of the self, but is a vital force that can be applied to every aspect of life. When sexual energy is consciously integrated, it informs our actions with a sense of purpose and direction, making every decision, every effort, an intentional step toward the creation of our legacy. Self-awareness is another crucial component of self-mastery. The ability to observe our desires, to recognize our impulses, and to understand their root causes is essential for turning sexual energy into a tool of greatness. Sexual energy, when left unchecked, often reveals itself through unexamined, unconscious patterns, addiction, obsession, or distraction. But by cultivating awareness of these impulses, we can make conscious decisions about how to engage with them. It is through self-awareness that we can distinguish between momentary indulgence and the deeper, more lasting satisfaction that comes from pursuing our higher aspirations. This process of awareness and mastery enables us to overcome the instinctive reactions that often lead to discontent or distraction. Many people squander their energy in endless cycles of short-term pleasure or seek external validation through fleeting relationships or external successes. In contrast, those who master their sexual energy focus on creating something that extends beyond themselves, whether that be an enduring creative work, a transformative social movement, or a deep and meaningful legacy. By learning to channel energy into sustained action, individuals can create something far more powerful and lasting than mere momentary pleasure. Mastering self through sexual energy also helps in the cultivation of wisdom and emotional resilience. One of the key aspects of self-mastery is the ability to endure hardship, to stay focused on one's path despite obstacles. This resilience often arises from a deeper connection to one's inner energy, a recognition that we are more than our impulses and that true power lies in choosing our responses. Sexual energy, when aligned with purpose, becomes a source of strength in moments of difficulty. It fuels persistence, perseverance, and a willingness to take risks. Those who have mastered their sexual energy tend to exhibit a higher level of emotional maturity, understanding that true power lies not in the pursuit of pleasure, but in the ability to transform challenge into opportunity. When sexual energy is deliberately focused, it also fosters a sense of balance and harmony within the individual. The ability to align body, mind, and spirit is key to true greatness. Mastery of self is not about striving for perfection, but about achieving a balance that allows for the integration of all aspects of the self. Sexual energy, when understood and directed, becomes one of the most potent forces for achieving this inner equilibrium. It is a balance between the instinctive and the rational, the emotional and the intellectual, the personal and the collective. This harmony gives rise to a powerful inner alignment where every action, every decision, is a reflection of one's deepest self and purpose. Furthermore, this inner mastery extends to our relationships and interactions with others. When we have mastered ourselves, we no longer seek external validation or approval. We become more centered and able to forge genuine connections. This inner confidence and clarity allow us to build lasting relationships based on mutual respect and authenticity, rather than based on need or superficial attraction. In turn, these relationships often become key components of our legacy, people we have touched, inspired, and uplifted through our personal growth and integrity. At a societal level, self-mastery through sexual energy creates role models and leaders whose influence lasts for generations. The great leaders and innovators of history were often those who understood the importance of mastering their instincts and desires, channeling their energy into creating something meaningful for the collective good. Their legacies were built on their ability to rise above immediate impulses and remain focused on their higher vision. Their work lives on because they understood that true greatness comes not from the fleeting moments of indulgence, but from the enduring strength of self-discipline and purpose. In the end, legacy through self-mastery is about creating something that lasts beyond one's life. It is about leaving an imprint on the world that reflects the highest expression of one's energy and potential. By learning to harness sexual energy, integrate it consciously, and align it with purpose, we open the door to not just fleeting successes, but to a profound and lasting legacy that continues to inspire and shape the world long after we are gone.